Taylor Klinglesmith here with TJ Krages. He will be doing Sunday Essentials with me. We want to talk about today tragedy into triumph. And with our story, it kind of starts with how we met, both of us losing our father. I lost mine when I was 10 years old. Fast forwarding probably 4 years into meeting you through your mom, shooting my mom a text saying, look, bring him around. And it was kind of an awkward situation at first, just kind of not really knowing what I was getting into, people I didn't know. But ultimately, it turned out to be the best. You ended up being one of my best friends. And we just kind of rolled into that. But actually, we had a lot of struggles. I mean, I can remember when we first started hanging out, a lot of arguments, tons of, especially when we went to basketball camp, we
got into a fight there.
Yeah, got into a fight there over a pillow and a blanket, and that was probably.
Hey, that was cold.
Hey, we definitely had the moment. But I know for me, especially dealing with losing my dad so early, was how did I handle it? Who do I look to? Who do I turn to? And in that moment, of course, kind of pushed people away. You kind of do those things, and luckily got surrounded with people like you and surrounded with people like Brian and Josh and Coach Hicks and all these guys that impacted me. So kind of how did you get through dealing with your dad?
I mean, definitely family. Got a lot of family around. Friends. I mean, y'all stayed the night at my house every night for a couple weeks probably. I think I slept with dudes in my bed because I was like, so just didn't want to be by myself, so
right.
Scared afraid something's gonna happen to me, and then just finding peace, I think, with God, like just immediately after, a couple of days later, I just felt peace. I don't know, just feeling like I knew where my dad was, feeling like I knew, he touched a lot of people's heart, he made an impact on me, and just felt at peace about it, and obviously it took time to grieve and all that, but go slow and
yeah, for sure, man. I can think back to youth league days and just seeing him and him being a light, and of course Travis is another one of those that he just kind of sticks to you. If anybody. Travis Krages, he's going to put a smile on your face, even though he does get to us at times, but that's because we're around him. Yeah, but he's little brother to us, and so what advice moving forward for anyone in some type of tragedy that they have to look forward, we have to keep grinding, we have to do those things, we have to ultimately, like I said, keep moving forward. That's going to be the main point that we hit today, is keep moving forward, turning tragedy into triumph. Yep. So what advice would you give to people for their tragedy to be a triumph?
I would say, first, if it's death especially, there's nothing you can do. You got to sit with those feelings. Even right now, talking to you on this camera, like my eyes is watering because it impacts you. There's nothing you can do about it. But you just, like you said, you just keep pushing, keep grinding, keep every day. Wake up, know that you're gonna serve a purpose, and then in that, with that person's death, try to impact people the way they did. Try to keep their legacy going. Find things about that person, like my dad. Find things about that person that you can live on, that you can keep living. That make that person live.
Well, that's good, man. And to give TJ a little break, because I know how emotional it can be and things like that. I want to tell you all a story about a really good friend of mine. His name's Kyle Lefevre. Which brings me to. This podcast is actually brought to you by Lefevre's Lawn Service, so if you need anything for your lawn and landscaping needs, give him a call or a text, and his ad will be on and attached to this. But with that, I'll never forget one of the scariest phone calls I ever got was, man, I believe I'll never forget. I was in my room. It was 8:30 at night, and my dad just called me downstairs, and he's like, look, man, your friend Kyle was hit by a car. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? And he's like, look, here's $20. I don't know what you got to do. I'll pay for whatever, because at the time, that's when I had first left Ford. So he gives me $20, says, dude, head on down there, like, you need to do what you got to do. And, man, just being in that room, surrounded by people that loved him, and just not knowing. That was the craziest uncertainty that I ever have experienced. I mean, you know, you got one of your best friends in a room 9, which, you know, luckily he's a survivor of now. But in the moment, you don't know. And so I actually have a couple quotes from him, but for long story short, he ended up losing his leg from the knee down. And, man, when I tell y'all that he still grinds every day, he still owns a business, still works at Ford Motor Company, like, this dude grinds. And I can't compliment him enough. Like, I know I joke with him about it. I call him Stumpy all the time and joke with him. But, man, just, like, to see him and to see the way he got through it, like, it was so positive. And I know that it's very easy to be negative, especially whenever you got all these eyes on you and you're like, dude, what? And they're like, you got to be the strong one, but you're the one that's the weak one. Yeah. So for him to do that, man, and he actually gave me a quote. I'll read this to you all. He said this is exactly what got him through it. He knew he was 23 years old with a whole life to live. He knew he wanted to get married someday and then have kids maybe, and he knew there was a lot of people that counted on him. So to think that, like, even in this moment, last week we talked about loving and serving people, that in this moment that you've been hit by a car, you're in a coma for a week, and all you still care about is other people. Like, all you care about is, I got to make it for everybody else. That's a true testament to loving and serving everybody else. Like, that's all you do. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, losing a leg and all you thought about was someone else. Like, I have to do it for someone else. But the quote he told me was, and we had talked yesterday about it, he said, it's not about what we go through, it's how we go through it. Mm-hmm. And, man, that kind of hit me, because same thing with our dads. I don't necessarily think, I mean, especially me, I work at Seneca High School, and I know you work with different guys at Ford. Man, it's just something crazy you deal with, especially dealing with people, is you never know their background, what they go home to, what, you know, things like that. But it's not what we go through. How are we going to go through it? What is your mindset? Is your mindset positive? Are we going to turn tragedy into triumph? Do we care enough to say, it ain't about me? Mm-hmm. It's not about me at all. And that I have to do this for others. I have to survive. And I've talked numerous times about my nieces and nephews, and you got Jaden. You now have, you know, back into a relationship. So those things, I mean, how different is it for you, especially knowing that story, to tie it into yours with your dad? Now you got little eyes, Jaden, yeah. Travis. I mean, even your mom. I mean, we talk so much about, you know, eyes on me, but, like, how's that for you? Because, I mean, technically, you're the man. I mean, and you are, because you got Travis, Jaden, and Ashley. So what's that like?
It's really, it was hard at first, you know, because you look around and there's not a lot of, you know, tragedy to triumph stories. You know, people would go through stuff like death or getting, you know, losing a leg. I couldn't imagine that. Like, that's unbelievable to me. The man has to learn to do everything all over again. Like, that is unbelievable to me. Like, I don't know the guy, but he's amazing. But anyways, there's not a lot of stories of people, you know, coming through it. You see people on drugs, you see people homeless, you see people that, you know, don't have, you know, the things that we have right now. And so for me, it's, you know, it's rewarding to know that I did get through it. Right. But at first it was hard, you know, with my brother. My brother's, you know, most of y'all probably, a lot of people know Travis Krages. He's in a wheelchair, he has cerebral palsy, can't walk, can't feed himself. He's about to be 21 years old, he still wears a diaper. So it's really hard, man. Like, when my dad passed away, I was 16 years old, and buddy, having to change diapers, and you know, my mom not having a job at the time, and, you know, having there was nobody else. You know, it's me, my mom, and Travis, and then my uncle moved in with us eventually. But yeah. It was hard, dude. You know, and then feeling like I am the man at 16 years old. You know, you gotta either fail or you rise to the occasion. You know what I'm saying? And
for sure, man.
I feel like I did, and
yeah.
But you got a lot of people, you know. At 16, I'm going through a lot. but also my mom at, in her 30s, losing her husband, she's going through a lot. So you got a lot of people looking at you, got a lot of people looking at her, got a lot of, me trying to be strong feelings-wise for her, and there's a lot still. Even not today, my grandma and grandpa, my grandpa basically lost his paint business because of that, I mean, it affected a lot of people, and just to come through it is like, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like, I don't never want to say it's worth it, because I'll take my dad back in a heartbeat. We'll give up a lot of things for it, but it just kind of makes you see that you can get through a lot of stuff. I can get through anything right now that I feel just because of that. So.
Yeah, well, we're gonna take a little short break, and then we'll come back, and we're only gonna focus on one quote. We're literally gonna take one quote from Rocky, the last Rocky that was ever made, right before Creed, and we're just gonna focus right on that quote, and we're gonna stay there for about 10 minutes. All right.
Remix, yeah. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. Whenever me and Khaled do the remix, everybody hands go up. Hey, showtime, and they stay there, and they stay there, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win. We the best music, and if you go easy, I'm going in. Sitting on the top floor, what you think I'm hot for? Every summer drop mode, hits to make my stock go up. Them hands go up, the bands go up. I'm number one in this bitch, and I'ma say that. We the best of the best. Why while you haters asleep? I'm yelling free Weezy. I rep the heart of the streets. Who hotter than me? I'm wearing the crew. Tell me can't stop, won't stop. Go hate on me now.
I can never get enough when it come to getting fitted. Niggas ain't ready for my Ferrari Scaglietti. Mario ain't dreaded. Money coming fast. My honeycomb hideout is made of all glass. I can never be a racist. Wake up every morning just to count white faces. Neo in the Matrix. Glorious as Morpheus. Employed all warriors. I'm mean as a scorpion. Dr. Kevorkian.
Yo, every time I come, I gotta know a nigga come to get a lot of money when I'm in the building and I come to say there ain't no motherfucking body. Better. Okay. Niggas know I got it when I hit you with a pitter patter. Whenever they see me, then you hear a lot of chitter chatter. Niggas know there ain't nobody better. I watch a lot of niggas when I'm in a cut. So sick when I come and hit them.
All right, guys, we're back again with Tragedy and Triumph with TJ Krages and the Sunday Essentials. Like I said before, we went to a little brief break. We're going to stay on this one quote, and I think that me and you especially will relate to this, and I'm hoping that they do, and we kind of inspire them just to this quote, and we just kind of talk about our little tragedies of triumph, and I'll share a little bit about me and something that I don't know that you even know about me, especially me. That was the time I was in college. So when things got hard, you started looking to blame other people. Let me tell you something you already know. Life isn't all sunshines and rainbows. It'll beat you to your knees, and it'll keep you there if you let it. So that quote especially stuck with me, and the minute I thought tragedy into triumph, the first thing touched my heart. I was like, man, that's the quote. So, like I was telling you, I'm gonna go straight into when I was at Crown. I didn't really talk to anybody. Back home, I felt like I needed to isolate myself from the community, from Fairdale, from Louisville, from Kentucky, because clearly, why else would anybody go 14 hours away to play ball? That doesn't make sense. But that's the decision I ultimately had to make. And man, while I was up there, I met a girl. But right before I met her, there was tons of thoughts of like why am I here? Mm-hmm. Why do I want to be here? Especially is it even worth living? Especially because at the time I was going to a bunch of chapels in Crown and hearing the word, and I didn't know if I was saved or if I wasn't saved or what Jesus was or really if I believed in it or not. I mean, I know I kind of went through the motions when I was at home with Brian and us doing those Bible studies and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, I didn't know. I didn't know what my outlook was. I mean, I kind of knew my hope was in sports. So when I found out that I was coming home, it devastated me. I knew I wasn't going back. I knew I had blown $30,000 and it wasn't going to pay for my education. And of course, I mean, luckily for you, you had a different mindset, but mine was sports. I mean, that's all I knew. That's all I ever knew. That's all I've done. Anybody I've had a connection with has ultimately been through sports. So when I found out I was coming back, man, I was probably I'll never forget, it was December 8th, 2012. And I just thought And I literally sat at my window in a dorm and was like, do I jump? Like, what is my purpose? And man, and that hit me. And I'll never forget, I got a text from my mom. And that's what got me there, was super pumped you're coming home. And I only got to talk to him about once a week. I mean, I was playing ball and lifting, and we, 5 a.m. weightlifting, then you got 8 a.m. class, and then you got to fit in lunch at some point, and you do all these different things. You don't have time to talk to people that you love or really do anything. And so the one text my mom sent me said, can't wait for you to be home, buddy. And I just kind of had to take a step back, like this could have been bad. Mm-hmm. And then I, to go on to another quote, just a little bit to backtrack, seen something today, scrolling through social media, suicide doesn't take the pain away, it passes it on to someone else. Mm. And so, especially thinking about that today, now I have 7 nieces and nephews, I'm good with Jaden, and now me and you are close. I got all these different people that I'm good with. But in the same moment, what do I do?
Right.
So looking back, that would have been so crazy, so selfish, that I now have 7 nieces and nephews, all these young men I get to deal with, all these guys I get to coach. How selfish of that would have been to just say end it. And pass on blame just because I was kind of in a pity.
Yeah.
And that's definitely, I don't take that as a tragedy into a triumph, but I definitely see it as a moment that could have ruined a lot. And I definitely see that.
Could have caused a lot of tragedy on somebody else.
Man, and it could have, and I don't even want to know. And that's probably the only third time I've ever talked about it. And I don't like talking about it because to me that showed that I was weak, that I let things get to me. And also in that moment, where was my head? And so with that, I'm super pumped though. It excites me. It gets me motivated to know that I've been where some of these people have been. I've been looking at a ledge saying, you know what? This might be it. But luckily, a quote, I just had to get up off my knees. Just had to get off my knees, fight back, say I'm taking over. Come back, start coaching immediately, start being around kids, and I finally find out what's going to happen with my life. I know what direction I want to go. I know I'm going to school, and I know I want to teach. So with that, I want to ask, what would you say was a defining moment that you knew what direction your life would go?
I don't know. I don't know a date. Definitely not like you. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was in school, went to college, went to Spalding first, 2 years, transferred to U of L, and I sucked at U of L. Gosh, I didn't want to go to class. I was taking 5 classes at once. Finally, I just basically flunked out and said, I'm not going back. I'm going to figure out something else. And I worked at top of the line vending machine company. And then Ford, Brian Val's, had a hiring packet for me. I filled it out, turned it in, but I was starting as a temp. And I didn't want to do that. Was we married at the time? I'm not sure if me and my girlfriend now. Different story for a different time, but she is my ex-wife. We are together at the moment. We're gonna be together. But regardless, I had a wife at the time, and she was pregnant. A baby was on the way, and I was working at a vending machine company making, who knows, $10, $12 an hour maybe. And Ford had the packet, but I was starting as a temp, and I was scared to death to get that job and get laid off. So I took probably 3 months to even call Ford back, because they eventually called me to take the test, and I didn't answer it. It took me 3 months to call back. I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take my chances. So I called back, took the test, got hired on the next day, and I started. They hired me, but then I started probably a month later. And so, that was probably the moment I got hired on, and so I got hired, started April 20th, and I was full-time by August, which means now they can fire me, I guess, or let me go, but they're going to pay me for it eventually. So that was August 3rd or 4th. I got hired full-time. Yeah. So So that might have been the moment I realized this is what I'm gonna do, you know. And I still don't like it. I still look for, you know, better opportunities. But I know that, you know, my family is secure. My son is, you know, he's gonna have a good life. He's gonna have a roof and food, and he's never gonna go without anything. And my girlfriend, I guess is what I should call her, or partner. One day when we get remarried, I know that she will have, you know, a hardworking husband that will take care of her and give her everything she ever wants. So I guess I could say that was my defining moment. But yeah, it was scary.
For sure, for sure. Well, this was Sunday Essentials with Tabor Klinglesmith and TJ Krages, and we'll come back at y'all next week again.
Holla at you.